Hey, Bushers, Mr. Narimatsu here, coming with your World War II activity, last activity for period 7. So, congratulations. It's a beast of a period, and we got through it. So, great job. Um, in Khan Academy, the World War II is quite extensive. There's a lot of videos and a lot of articles, which is good, and that information is there if you would like to refer back to it and it's something that you do enjoy. Um, in this case, I really like Adam Norris's World War II video. It's a 12 to 15-minute video rather than multiple 12 to 15-minute videos. Like really get straight to the point to what's going to be on the test, and it really takes a focus on the key concepts. Really apologize if you're a student that was really looking for in-depth like analysis of World War II, but it's such an intense and such a complex event, similar to World War I, but from the United States perspective, our involvement is so much longer. So we're again not, unfortunately, like most things in this class, not going to give it the justice that it quite deserves. But we're going to go ahead and kind of do a little bit of a survey of it and kind of show you the kind of big idea of what's going on. All right, so let's get into it. So basically, one thing we want to know is, what was World War II, how it began. It largely begins with two countries trying to grow in power, Germany and Japan, and they're both doing it in their own way. Kind of their alliance is one kind of done in kind of like coincidence and necessity rather than something that was pre-planned together, if that makes sense. But as we know, kind of famous was Germany and Nazi Germany under the leadership of Adolf Hitler. They will expand. They will move into this area called Czechoslovakia, and that will kind of be a off limits kind of call by, or sorry, actually, an invasion of Poland. They will take Czechoslovakia, and the France and Great Britain will warn Germany that is an act of war, in which Germany will say, "Okay, fine, we won't do it," but their invasion of Poland makes it very clear that Adolf Hitler and Nazi Germany is not gonna play nice, and World War II begins because of that action. Um, Obviously, I was going to talk about the atrocities that the Germans did, whether it be through warfare, but most importantly, obviously on the Jewish people, and also other undesirables, as it was stated. The first individuals that were put into these type of concentration camps were actually political prisoners, largely communist, and other individuals that are seen as enemies of the state. And then it moved also to those that were mentally ill or physically handicapped into other groups, and then largely a specific focus on the Jewish population within their areas that they would liberate, especially those areas in Poland where some of the worst concentration camps existed. Um, Japan at this time is increasing its sphere of influence. It's going to make headways really into China, down to the Philippines, and all throughout this area, and actually start moving more through these islands that I know you guys can't see, but there are islands out through here, just to build its what they call its sphere of influence. It's Asian co-prosperity spheres, like as they would say, an empire in which Japan would be at the center and they would help others and they would go back through colonies, but it was really an extension of empire building and colonization that was happening on Japan. And there are some horrible atrocities that are happening in China. So there's I'm totally blanking out on the book, but there's a book about Nanjing. The book is called The Rape of Nanjing, and in this area there was the forced rape of women. Civilian casualties were horrible. There are stories and newspapers of leaders, Japanese leaders using samurai swords to decapitate prisoners of war and civilians in races, almost like they're in competitions. So some really horrible atrocities. Another thing I'm going to hear about is Bataan Death March. So the United States, when it does declare war and it's getting up to it, very easily feels like it can support these Great Britain and France and against Nazi Germany, and sees anybody who's against Japan and its atrocities, and identifies both of these kind of groups as being uncivilized or barbaric or just committing horrible war atrocities, and will be kind of a moral reason for the United States to enter the war as well. However, prior to that, we spent multiple neutrality acts. These are passed under Congress to force actually the United States from actually declaring war. after we were attacked in Pearl Harbor. We definitely will move into war. But shows the most recent one. There's one in 1936 as well, I believe. It's pretty interesting how there's a ban on loans. Maybe kind of giving a little credence to the loans that were given out during World War One, forcing us into World War One, as we wanted to ensure that Britain and France would definitely be able to pay back those loans and be the victors of World War One. But definitely trying America at this time is listening to George Washington as it tried to do in World War One and trying to stay as neutral as possible. Prior to the invasion of Poland, Adolf Hitler meets, as you can see here, with Neville Chamberlain, the British Prime Minister, and they meet in Munich in 1938. And Neville Chamberlain comes out of this meeting and says, "We have," as you can see, he puts this piece of paper sign and says, "We have peace in our time." And the agreement was that Adolf Hitler would not commit any more acts of war and take over territories. And so this is a policy in European history is known as appeasement, which you're just kind of giving in to Adolf Hitler. And that is an example of what is happening. Ultimately, his invasion of Poland will thrust Europe into war, and the United States will stay away from that war for 2 years until they are attacked by Japan. That's what's kind of started the invasion. I don't know why it's here because I put on the wrong thing. I kind of talked about this multiple times. Pearl Harbor is bombed by the Japanese in a surprise attack. A lot of conspiracies, a little bit of history that kind of talks about perhaps Franklin Delano Roosevelt knew that this was happening, or that parts of the Navy leadership may have known that this was happening, but knew that this coming event would need to spur Americans into war. I don't know the validity of those claims, but anyways, I just want to let you know that I personally have been onto the USS Arizona, which actually its ship kind of lays this way, kind of almost perpendicular to the museum itself, and you kind of look down. And this is actually an old open, I think it's artillery area. That's where like the cannons would be kind of mounted that you can see. So it's right there, the Arizona. But it's attacked, and here's kind of a better view so that you can see the actual ship. But we're surprise attacked, and this thrusts the United States into war. A lot of people, as I said earlier, would credit the war as the actual reason why we got out of the Great Depression. This definitely increased the demand in the production of goods, especially war goods, especially ships. I think we're like producing a ship almost every day, especially here in San Diego. During this thing, I mean, that's how just intense the production is happening, and these ships are being brought over to Britain and France as well. All types of things are being produced and being shipped everywhere, and so this is increasing employment. It's increasing our production, and this is really the thing that ends World War II. So ultimately, we know that the United States will win. Nazi Germany will go in defeat, and this uneasy alliance between the Soviet Union begins. The U.S. power will be definitely dominant, but a second power will emerge underneath the Soviet Union, underneath the leadership of Stalin during World War II. And this is going to be setting up the stage for something called the Cold War, in which the democracy and capitalism of the United States is going to be threatened theoretically by the dictatorships and the communist dictatorships of the Soviet Union and its satellite states, and dividing Europe into Western Europe and Eastern Europe, where the West kind of supporting the United States. And this is where we kind of get the term the West. You kind of hear it like Western reporters or the West is kind of coming from this specific moment in time in which Western part of Europe and the United States were considered these kind of leaders of these democratic capitalist governments, whereas they were kind of seen as more dictatorships, and basically the Soviet Union controlling parts of different countries by setting up dictators or in regimes, or influencing countries in other ways, such as the support of Cuba or communists in Latin America. So I'll be setting up for period 8, which unfortunately is another beast of a unit. Basically the focus on the Cold War. But there you go. So that kind of focuses World War II. Again, not nearly as long, but at least we're not having to do all these activities, get really the United States history understanding that we need. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed that World War II. Hope you enjoyed Adam Norris's kind of shorter video. He does go quite fast, so make sure you hit pause every once in a while and check some things. Take a little bit more time since this is a shorter video to check out a few of his terms and Google them and kind of hit some of the images or definition to get a better understand what he is describing. And let me know how I can help you as well. All right, take care now. Bye.